Good afternoon. In today's video, we're going to do the very first part of an assignment called Cloud City. Cloud City is a futuristic city in the clouds. Futuristic means that it takes place in the distant future, not in the near future. The near future might be a week, a month, a year away. The distant future might be 5, 10, 25, 100 years away, okay? In your picture, you have to have clouds. You also have to have at least 4 buildings and embellishments or details. So here in this student work, we have clouds top and bottom. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings, if you count this one right here, broken up with that atom. And also we have lots of details, okay? Do you notice the shading? We'll get into that in the next video to accompany this one. Here's some more student work to look at. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings and clouds. It's not necessary for you to draw the background. If you'd like to, you can, or the sky can be left white. Here's another student drawing right here. Clouds plus 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings. I guess that number 8 could be a 5th, suspended from up above. Let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and take just a piece of scrap paper. I don't want to waste too much. I've made some interesting pictures on the back. One thing I'm going to do with a drawing tool like my number 2 pencil here, you can use number 2 pencil or you can use mechanical pencil, but I do love pencil because you can erase it. I'm going to practice a little bit, and I can do so on the back, my circles. And if you notice, I'm drawing very lightly, so lightly I bet you can't even see it there beneath the camera lens. But I am practicing my circles, which I then can selectively go in and pick out just those portions of those circles that I really want to keep. And you see that I have a nice big billowy bank of clouds there at the bottom of my picture. Now, I'm going to go ahead and draw straight lines. That's a fairly straight line. Remember, circles and straight line parallels, we've practiced a lot, so if you haven't been practicing, please do. This configuration should look familiar. This grouping of 3 lines, remember the arrow from our French fries? Remember the arrow from our tall buildings reaching up into the sky that we did 2 weeks ago? So a very similar technique to establish the left and right sides of this building as we see it. That could be such an easy, successful building to make. Guess what? Of my 4 buildings, I'll just make it again. And of course, in a city you have many buildings, one right on top of another. So to have overlapping in a city, if you want to create the idea of a city, makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now that's just 2 straight lines that create an X, but I'm going to watch this. I'm going to add a curve here, curving up. Remember how this arrow points up? Well, the curve points up, and you and I are down here in the clouds looking up, so this is how we see the top of this cone. Does it look like an ice cream cone to you? Can you imagine ice cream up there? Let's go ahead and make this an ice cream shop. And there's my scoop of ice cream right there. It needs to have some detail. It's not very interesting right now, but the cone I put to good use. I made ice cream on top. Now this could also be a cone upside down, but watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to split it with another straight line, and if I add some surface detail, look what I'm adding. I'm adding those arrows that we've talked about before. See the arrow that I'm adding? This line going up and back down again tells me that these surfaces that join together along this middle line, those are flat surfaces. Those are flat planes. And by putting in numerous arrows, you get the idea that the entire surface is flat. Flat on the right and flat on the left. Now you see I've begun to add a little detail. Let's do that up here with our... You see how these curve upwards? Ever so slightly to suggest the waffle pattern on the cone. This might have, you know what I'm going to do? Well, I think I'll just put some flavored chunks. These are irregular shapes, like chunks of chocolate or mint or bubble gum or whatever you can imagine. Maybe nuts or raisins that are in the ice cream. So believe it or not, that building right there is done. It could be one building, it could be two. Since I've got this little extra bit of space, oh, you know what? I'm going to do something right here. Now, today, in this drawing, this is the first time I've used my oval. But you know I love using ovals. I did use circles before, and now I'm using ovals. And this could be the top of a building. Since I'm seeing inside of this, let's pretend like it's a swimming pool. And I can see the curve of the water, or maybe it's not water at all. Maybe it's punch, or maybe it's soda, or maybe it's Kool-Aid. That could be the surface of the water in my very large cup. And maybe it's a public swimming pool. It could be. I'll come back to that in just a moment. I do want to add some more detail to these. If you see me using that oval again, this is a window on the right side. This is a window. It looks a little bit like a Flintstones building, doesn't it? If you know the Flintstones, you know what I'm talking about. This is a window on the left side. Watch what I'm going to do here on this left side of this left window. I'm going to double that curve on this side facing out. Just drop a little shadow in there so you can see that that's a curved surface and a window that goes inside the building. I'm going to do the same here. You see that curve. I'm going to repeat it. And there we have on the right side, this is the outside edge of the window facing towards the outside. There's the curve repeated facing outside. And of course, now or later, a little bit of shading or color. What I might do now, super lightly, can you even see how light that line is? I bet you can. I'm going to draw a zip line. You know how zip lines come down and gravity brings you along the zip line? And here we go through one window, out the other. And for scale, this is that little tiny thing that rolls along the zip line. And guess what this is? This is you. There's your tummy, there's your right leg, there's your left leg foreshortened, there are your arms, and you're zipping along. Because you are so small, we get a sense of how big everything else is in relationship to you. So this is a good example of using the idea of scale, S-C-A-L-E, in a picture to show you the relative sizes of things. It's very good to put you or someone you know in the picture because, of course, we have an idea of how big we are, and this tells us how everything in this imagined place is way bigger than we are. Now, I'm going to add a little more detail here. You know what this is? This is going to be the handle of my coffee cup. And right here, you see that angled line? What if I just repeat it here on the left side? And then what if I do the same thing on the right? See that angled line repeated on the right? So the arrow here gets repeated down the length of this central line, more or less. And those arrows then give me a sense of the building going up into the sky. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings plus detail. I'm good to go. In my next picture, I will take this drawing and begin to add color and shading to it. But I would be happy this week if you only get this far, where you've given me 4 buildings, clouds, and a few extra details to make it look interesting. Remember, what you come up with is entirely your decision. Now, you try.